I'm Richie Suave Flores.
And I'm Cori Crenshaw.
And this is Sporty with Cori and Richie Suave.
Floater, center field. The Diamondbacks are world champions.
Down is the motion man. Little flip to Fitzgerald. He scores. And the Cardinals win an amazing game.
Mikhail Bucker with a chance. He walks in. He scores. Mikhail Bucker for the second straight game is the hero.
Welcome back, Sporty Nation. We changed it up a little bit this week, and we're going to have my Cori's Corner first. I'm introducing everyone in. I know, all jazz handsy. And Richie's Dick of the Week will be later. We have so much going on this week. We're so happy to be back. I mean, we have Dbacks. We have a special guest, Jesse Friedman, who's from the Rattle. And we will be also talking about Zeke Elliott's suspension of 6 games. And then we'll all go into our favorite 90s shows because they did 90s night at the Dbacks because you can't get enough of the 90s. Am I right?
I will not. We haven't told anybody our list for the 90s thing. So this is going to be interesting. The 90s best 90s TV shows is what we're doing, right?
Yes, we're going to do our favorite 90s TV shows. I'm going to do live action because there's way too many cartoons. I probably could list everything off the Disney Channel because I watched it like crazy when I was very little. I was born in 94, so.
And I'm Team Nickelodeon.
Yes, we're on complete opposite teams once again. It's relatively usual for us. But the same team that we are on is our social media. It will be located on our description box. So go ahead and go down there and find all of our social medias and follow us on there. Don't forget to subscribe, like, the usual stuff. And, tell us if there's anything in the comments that you really want us to talk about, or, you just happen to love Richie's hair this week or his collared shirt this week. Last week, I got comments that it looked like he was wearing a bowling shirt. The funny things that people come up with. I would really like to hear what you guys have to say.
Now joining Cori and myself, he is the host of the Rattle podcast, focusing on, of course, your Arizona Diamondbacks. He is Jesse Friedman. Join us for the next 10 minutes or so. Jesse, thanks for touching base with us and hanging out with us, man.
Absolutely. It's great to be with you guys.
Yeah, so let's just kind of get into this. We wanted to mostly touch on this series between the Cubs and then the last series against the Dodgers. And, Jesse, my main question for you is basically, from what you've seen as they facing, kind of the top teams in the National League in the last week or so, do you still think this team is a playoff team right now or no?
It's kind of looked a little sketchy of late. I think the Diamondbacks, they're something like 15-23 over their last 38 games. They haven't really been at their best for really ever since the All-Star break. I think this team has been in a bit of a struggle. All those big hits that they seem to be getting back in the first half of the season, they're just not getting those big hits. And even on the managerial side, it seemed like every move that Torey Lovullo made back in the first half of the season worked wondrously. And here in the second half, it seems like almost every time he's stuck with a pitcher or he's pulled a pitcher or whatever the decision may be, it seems like all those decisions have been blowing up in his face of late. So I think there's kind of some inevitable ups and downs over the course of a season. This is one of the downs, and I think it's kind of a good measuring stick for the Diamondbacks as they seek to make their playoff run. They're probably going to see teams like the Dodgers, like the Cubs. And to be honest, I think they're a playoff team. I think although they're in this down, they're in this bit of a rut at the moment. I look at the talent that's on this Diamondbacks roster, and I compare it with the other wild card teams. The Cardinals have really come on strong lately. Maybe the Cubs they're facing today, the Rockies. I think the Diamondbacks, just top to bottom, have a better, deeper roster than any of those teams. And despite the recent struggles, I think that will ultimately lead them to that playoff berth.
Going off of what you had said there about Lovullo making the choices that he had in the first half and how he's been sticking with pitchers and stuff like that, Greinke in Game 2 against the Dodgers had a very good first 6 innings, and then in that 7th, He had 2 runs off of 3 hits, and Lovullo decided to keep him in. Do you think that was the right choice?
It's an interesting, very interesting question. The old case of, do you stick with your ace when maybe your ace doesn't have his best stuff anymore at that point in the game? And to be honest, that was one of the decisions Lovullo has made recently that I was very happy with. I think Zach Greinke's pitch count at the time was still in the, I don't remember if it was the high 80s or the low 90s, but he still had something left in the tank. And to be honest, I think people would have been a lot more mad if they had gone to the bullpen when Zach Greinke had like 88 pitches or something like that. If they went to the bullpen and one of the relievers blew the game, I think a lot of people would be up in arms about that. And I think at the end of the day, Zach Greinke is your ace. He has shown that time and time again this season, especially at Chase Field, where prior to that game he had never lost. And I think the Diamondbacks would rather lose that game in the hands of their ace than in the hands of a bullpen that's kind of struggled of late. So although I certainly haven't agreed with every decision that Torey Lovullo has made, that's one decision where I think Lovullo made the right call and it just didn't work out.
And Jesse, one of the things that I love about this team is I think at the top of the rotation, Zach Greinke, Robbie Ray, Zach Godley, this team is a team, at least as far as starting pitching-wise, is going to be built for the postseason. That's something you have to like as far as if they can just sneak into that one-game wildcard playoff, most likely against the Rockies, you have to like the way this team sets up for the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of crazy to think that just a year ago we were talking about a team rotation that had the worst ERA in the entire game of baseball, and now just 1 year later we're talking about a rotation that has an ERA that's second best in all of baseball. What a difference that 1 year has made, and I agree. I think Greinke has really stepped up after kind of a down year in his first season. Robbie Ray showed flashes at times last year, but just didn't seem to put the whole thing together until this year. And even Zach Godley, who's on the hill right now against the Chicago Cubs as we record, he's been outstanding for the team. Still has a sub-3 ERA for a guy who started in the minor leagues. Just really an unbelievable showing, I think, by the rotation. And when it comes to longevity in the game of baseball, there's nothing that's more important than your starting rotation, and I think it's the same for the playoffs. You have to be throwing a competitive starter on every single one of those playoff days, and I think the Diamondbacks are very well prepared to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely been a complete change from last year, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Torey Lovullo's come in, and he's changed a lot of the morale and the attitude because Shelby Miller, Zach Greinke coming in their first year, they both did not do well in the bullpen morale, and I think it was simply because of the fact that they weren't feeling very good moving into the Dbacks as opposed to their previous teams. But the one this year that I feel has been having the most problems has been not any of our starters as of late, because we had talked all this crap about Patrick Corbin, and he showed up the other night, so we have to insert our foot in the mouth on that one. But Fernando Rodney, he's now at a 4.93 ERA, and you guys had tweeted about that last night. That's not what you're wanting from a playoff closer, are you?
No, not exactly. And I think we saw last year with the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago Cubs and that whole World Series, we saw how important having elite bullpen arms really is. I don't think the Indians would have even had a chance to be in that situation if they didn't have Andrew Miller and Cody Allen and that firepower at the end of their bullpen. And the same goes for the Cubs. I don't think they would have had as good of a chance to be in that position without Aroldis Chapman. So it does scare you a little bit when you're staring at a 4.93 ERA on a closer. I understand that Fernando Rodney has proven over many, many years, maybe a little bit too many years at this point. It's definitely a concern come playoff time, but we have seen that Fernando Rodney, if nothing else, is a resilient guy. And even after he's had some of his worst blown saves of the season, and he's had some bad ones, he's shown the ability to bounce back. Just one game later, he's a completely different guy. So I think they do have some hope that Fernando Rodney will kind of be on his game when it comes to those playoff October days. And it's one of those things where you just kind of have to hope for the best. and hopefully he's on his game, and I think the Diamondbacks will be able to go in the playoffs as far as Fernando Rodney can take them.
It's something that I've kind of talked about quite a bit on Twitter, Jesse, which is I've kind of been on, as far as Fernando is concerned, we've kind of been playing with fire with him. It's just a matter of when he's going to basically blow up and explode, much like he did against the Cubs on Saturday. But to me, the future of this team as far as the closing position is Archie Bradley. So is that someone that you would like to see happen already? I feel like we should have maybe had that happen back in, maybe May. But Archie Bradley's, to me, clearly going to be the next closer of this team.
I understand the argument for putting Archie Bradley in that closer role. I think he's shown this year that he himself is resilient and that, frankly, he's just super talented. He's got this explosive fastball and a very good curveball that he's been commanding well this season. But to be perfectly honest, I really like Archie Bradley in the role that he's in. I think lately in the game of baseball, you've kind of seen this trend of having super relievers that you pitch in the 7th and 8th innings in those moments where the game is often decided. A lot of times games aren't decided in that 9th inning, as important as it is. A lot of times, games are decided when you're pulling your starter who doesn't have anything left in the tank, and there's 2 on and there's nobody out in the 7th inning, and you've got to go out and get some big outs. And I think I really have liked to see Archie Bradley in those roles, and I think he's the reason that they've won a lot of the games that they've had. That doesn't obviously do anything for the closer role, which I think the Diamondbacks will need to fill this offseason. But as long as they can keep Archie Bradley in that 7th, 8th inning role, personally, that's exactly where I would like him to be.
Going off of Archie Bradley, his roommate, Jake Lamb, has been coming up with some of these amazing hits in key times, and that used to be Goldie's position, and he seems to be doing still decent, but at the same time not coming up with these hits in key points. Jake Lamb had that solo home run and then a grand slam after that in that first game against the Dbacks. Do you think his role on the team has made a difference this year?
Absolutely. Jake Lamb, I think, has been another guy who you can kind of add to the list of breakout players the Diamondbacks have had this season. I think he'll probably end up with over 100 RBIs, probably hit over 30 home runs. I do see what you're saying when it comes to Goldschmidt and his maybe lack of ability to perform in the big moments this season. I think that's part of Goldschmidt's personality in a way. He's always been, kind of a conservative type of hitter, and obviously he's still putting up incredible numbers. But he's the guy who's not afraid to take a walk in that that big game situation and hand the bat over to somebody else and give him a shot at getting the big hit. I think a lot of us would rather see Goldie take those big swings and try to get it done by himself. But at the end of the day, Paul Goldschmidt is a guy who's going to reach base a lot, and he's honestly having an MVP-type season. And I think Jake Lamb has been really a key contributor to that, giving him protection in the lineup and just being another bat that the Diamondbacks have that can execute in those big game situations, like you said.
Jesse Friedman from the Rattle podcast joining us here on Sporty with Cori and Richie Suave. Jesse, thank you so much for the time, my friend. Before we let you go, where can our listeners find you on Twitter and your podcast as well?
Absolutely. They can find me on Twitter at Jesse N. Friedman. That's Jesse, Jesse. And they can find the Rattle podcast also on Twitter at the Rattle AZ.
Jesse, appreciate the time, my friend. Maybe we'll get you back on as we near the end of the pennant race in September. Appreciate it, bud.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Jesse. I really appreciated your input. Richie and I really enjoyed having you on the show. Moving on to my Cori's Corner goes very similar to what we were just talking about. I'd like to bring to light this week adversity and perseverance, because Jesse had touched upon it in our earlier interview about the fact that the things that Torey Lovullo has been working on had worked in the first half of the season. As soon as we got closer to the All-Star break, the team's mentality had stayed good. I mean, you guys all saw Archie Bradley recently saying this is our house and all that stuff. Everything with the team mentally wise, I think, has been going well, but the tactics he's been using play wise during the game haven't really been working out. We all saw that with Greinke, as mentioned before, and everything else, and he's been kind of trying to stick to his guns because they were working before, but they're not working now. They're coming into the second half of the season, and they're playing some of the hardest teams that they're going to play all season, and you're starting to see that now with the Dodgers and the Cubs. They really need, if they want to be a playoff team, to fight through this adversity and persevere. They really need to figure out what they need to do in order to become the team that they were before and become even better than they had started. When you're playing teams like the Dodgers that are nearly perfect every single day, you can't be coming to a point where you're coming in a slump that you will never get out of. It will be, once again, a mediocre season, and that's not what this team is about. This team is so much better than that, and it's the first time the team has seen a glimmer of light since 2011. So all they really need to do is persevere, and that will show truly the strength of this team. We will see as we're going on, but I have faith, and I hope you guys do, and the team as well. Keep going out and watching, because that's what keeps them going. Thank you for watching my Cori's Corner, and now we will be going into Ezekiel Elliott.
That's right, Cori. Let's get into probably the biggest story of the week as far as the sports world is concerned. We learned about it on Friday morning, which is that star running back for your Dallas Cowboys, America's team, leading rusher from the 2016 season, Ezekiel Elliott, is going to be suspended for 6 games, pending an appeal, which we would assume is coming. Let's get your thoughts on it. Do you think it was the right call, the 6 games? What do you make of the NFL's decision?
I think that they're using him to set an example because of the fact that he's been in trouble multiple times before. Last year, he was caught in a marijuana shop, and then after that, he was caught on video pulling down a girl's shirt during a St. Patrick's Day parade. And then most recently, a week before training camp, he got in a bar fight. So it's not like he doesn't have any priors that they are going off of on this. So I think he's one of those people that's been causing a lot of PR issues, especially since he is such a star in the league. So they're using him as quite the example, I guess you would say. So basically, because they even sent him a thing that said that it allows banishment if he were to do anything else that would basically tarnish the NFL's name. I mean, the NFL's already tarnished their own name quite a bit, but whenever you get booed when you literally walk out of just to announce a draft. But I digress. I mean, I honestly think he's being used as an example.
I don't disagree with you. And if you look at the bylaws of the NFL and their CBA, after the Ray Rice incident, where he was caught on video literally knocking out his then fiance, and he only got suspended 2 games for that. And thank goodness I don't think he's ever actually played another down in the NFL since, because he's not that good. But after that, the NFL implemented a brand new policy, which is to say that if you get caught for domestic violence, you automatically get suspended for 6 games. And the unfortunate thing in the NFL's case is that they didn't even set their own damn precedent before this. So although they're applying the letter of the law in the Ezekiel Elliott case, which is to suspend him for the 6 games, multiple times in the past they haven't followed their own rules. Most recently, last season with Giants kicker Josh Brown. Now, it came out last year that he, committed multiple acts of violence against his wife on multiple occasions, and he was even convicted of it, and he only got 1 game. And that's it. The kicker, 1 game for domestic violence. And that was a shame in and of itself, and he's now out of the league. Nobody wants to sign him because of his past. But, I mean, the 6 games is fair. The weird thing to me, though, is that he didn't get convicted. So this went through the courts about a year ago, and the case says that basically over a week in July of 2016, he committed 5 acts of violence against his then girlfriend in a week. but the Ohio sheriffs and the police did not charge him with anything. They didn't convict him with anything. And that's the interesting part to me to this, is that the NFL basically just did their own investigation on this. And apparently, according to them, they have pictures, and the pictures of the bruising on his now ex-girlfriend was enough to suspend him. So do you think that the NFL kind of laying down the law on their own without Ezekiel Elliott getting any problems with the actual law itself is okay from the NFL's part?
Well, it's kind of an odd situation because prosecutors never decided to put any actions against him at all. There was allegations in 2 different states, so it wasn't just Ohio from what I had read. So it's kind of a weird situation, and when it comes to the courts, they don't really want to prosecute someone unless they think they're actually going to win the case, because it's a waste of money for that state. So it could be that that's why they decided not to prosecute him. I don't know exactly what it was that stopped them from doing that. But I do know that the NFL, it was a year-long investigation. They had 12 different key witnesses that they had said. There were photos that they had looked at, and once they had gone through all of this stuff, they determined that, yes, he had done that. A lot of it is behind closed doors. You know, there's all of the very public PR problems that the NFL has been suffering through with Deflategate and everything else. And I mean, Roger Goodell just keeps on getting his own foot shoved in his mouth, considering the fact that, you know, as soon as Brady came back, he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know, and was hoisting up the trophy.
Roger Goodell apparently showed up at Gillette Stadium for the first time since.
Well, it just, there's not much that Roger Goodell has done lately that he can really do correctly.
No.
And that's kind of the hard part, is he's trying to set these standards and make it to the point where, like, every player under him shouldn't be screwing up because, you know, he's very serious about what's going on. And it's like, it's going to harm the team. Totally given it's going to harm the team. But as for, like, Ezekiel Elliott himself, if he can come back from this PR disaster, he's only supposed to be losing $2 million, which the Cowboys can get back $1.44 million in signing bonuses. So it's not like he's gonna be losing much money.
Yeah, I don't think the Cowboys nor him care about the freaking money. They're still one of the best teams in the league, and they can survive for 6 games without Zeke Elliott and be fine. For goodness sake, I was watching the Rams and Cowboys game on Saturday night, and Darren McFadden actually, played instead of Ezekiel Elliott and actually looked pretty good. And Darren McFadden's been in the league for a long time, and anybody can succeed behind that Cowboys offensive line, which is generally thought to be, one of the best offensive lines in the game. Oh, and they still have Dak Prescott. So I think they're going to be fine. Much like Tom Brady last year. Remember him when he got suspended for 4 games? Patriots ended up winning the Super Bowl. So in a way, maybe this is a good thing for the Cowboys because Zeke Elliott is not getting that wear and tear on his body through those 6 games. So he's going to be a little bit more fresh when he comes back.
So you're turning this around as in Goodell is just allowing him to have 6 games of rest time so he can come in and, like, basically kick ass when he comes back.
Exactly. He's probably still going to get 1,000 yards in even 9 games. He's going to tear up the league again, much like he did last year.
Do you think this is going to stop him from getting in trouble since they sent him a letter that said that they can banish him from the NFL? Do you think they would actually banish him from the NFL?
I don't think they will unless it's for a similar thing and it's another domestic violence incident, then he'll be gone. But if it's another, like, getting in a fight at a bar, they'll just suspend him like they do. There's troublemakers all over the league, for goodness sake. I mean, Vontaze Burfict, former ASU Sun Devil, he has on-field after on-field incident, and he's still in the league.
I think the whole thing out of all of this is just don't touch women. Like, don't.
Yes.
It's not good in the first place, and it's just going to make you look terrible. So just don't even deal with it because it's clearly a problem in the NFL right now to the point where Goodell needs to be doing something to stop it because it's looking so bad on the entire football league. And obviously there's many women who watch, so they don't want to alienate any of them. And the whole Ray Rice thing, it was horrific from a PR angle on both sides. So really the players need to watch what they're doing because you're constantly being watched. I know baseball is technically America's sport, but more Americans watch football, and it's, every Sunday, that's what everyone sits down to do. Even our producers here don't want to be shooting on Sundays during football season because they want to be sitting down watching football. It could be the fact that there are multiple fantasy leagues as well.
We should start our own fantasy league. Just me and you go head to head. We won't even invite any of our producers here. You guys aren't invited. It's just Cori and I going head to head.
Yeah, every week. I am undefeated, so I will warn you on that one.
I am not undefeated in fantasy. I suck, so I usually don't do it. But before we I actually put out a poll earlier this week on my Twitter account at rflores91. Wink.
Nice little drop there.
I asked because I thought this was an interesting kind of discussion to have, which is which league is worse in terms of handing out punishment? Because, we already talked about how inconsistent the NFL is with their suspensions for domestic violence. So I compared them to the NHL because the NHL is really bad with it too in terms of their
it's
suspensions.
Completely according to what they think of the player.
Yeah.
If that player is a fighter and they get in trouble a lot, they will give you a ton more games than you should have.
Exactly. So I asked, which league's disciplinary system is worse. I said the NHL Department of Player Safety or the NFL and Roger Goodell. And 63% of my Twitter people voted for the NFL and Roger Goodell, which I can agree with that because in the NHL, at least you kind of have, your entire department related to it. But the NFL, it's literally judge, jury, and executioner, Roger Goodell. There is no panels. There is no, all they have left now for the Zeke case is to appeal, and that's it.
Yeah, in both ends, Goodell and Bettman both get booed wherever they go. So don't be a commissioner of any professional sport and be unliked because you'll be hated everywhere.
Hashtag don't be a commissioner. I think we can all agree on that. But let's have some fun, Cori. We've decided the last couple of weeks that our last segment is not going to be about sports at all. It's going to be a little bit more fun. And this week is inspired by the Arizona Diamondbacks 90s night, which they had on Friday with Sugar Ray.
Yes, I was actually watching some Snapchats from some of my friends and old bosses and stuff like that were at the Sugar Ray concert. It was pretty good. They recorded every morning, but no one recorded Fly, and I wanted to see Fly.
Yeah, they're all terrible. Terrible band.
Okay, wow.
Terrible music.
I wasn't going in that direction, but it's good for you to put in your 2 cents there, Richie. Jeez. Got really feisty really quick.
This is an opinion show, Cori. I come with the hot takes every week.
I know. You do come with hot takes every week. That's why I come in here and try to be nice and, okay, not always positive, but at least, I'm your yin to your yang, whichever the lighter one is, or maybe I'm the darker one. I don't know.
All right, so here we go. So we have decided to rank in honor of 90s night at the Arizona Diamondbacks on Friday our top 3 favorite 90s TV shows. Now, keep in mind, Cori and I are both 90s babies. I was born in 91. You were born in 94. So I'm a little bit older, so our list could be a little bit different. But ladies first, your number 3.
My number 3 would have to be first I would like to give an honorable mention, since it's not in my list, to that 70s show, and that's simply because it started in 98, and I just didn't know if it was fair, 2 years, because it went so many years into the 2000s.
I'll allow it.
But if I didn't put it in there just because of that, but I love that 70s show. But Friends is my number 3 because it's you gotta know that Friends was a vital part of everyone's culture here in America, and the fact that Friends, the reruns of Friends, and the fact, the Rachel, the haircuts, all of that stuff was such massive things that, come on.
I think I've watched one episode of Friends, and it was a complete waste of my time. I hate that show. It's awful. It's not funny. I don't get it. Same thing with Seinfeld. It's basically the same damn show. It's boring. Terrible choice, Cori. Absolutely terrible freaking choice.
Wow. Okay. You just have to rip into me like that. Well, I mean, there's all these Friends people who got their hair cut as the Rachel.
It's a very popular TV show, but I just
who
disagree.
will be disagreeing with you. Come at Richie on Twitter, please.
Bring it, because you're all wrong. Every single one of you.
Please come at Richie on Twitter. There is this one girl that, like, she's like a makeup guru, but she does a lot of other things. Her name's Jaclyn Hill. I used to love the fact that she would constantly be showing Friends in the background, and she was just Netflixing Friends all the time. I'm like, I feel you, girl. I've got your eyeshadow on from your eyeshadow palette, and I feel you watching Friends. So, ha!
You can probably, so I'll do my number 3 now, and you can disagree with me as well, because I know you have never even seen this television show, and I find it very sad because it is one of the funniest TV shows of all time. I loved it as a kid, and it's still funny now. Number 3 is Animaniacs.
Yeah, I never watched it.
Yakko, Wacko, and their sister Dot.
Ah, like your opinions on Friends. Yakko, Wacko.
Very nice. Very well done. But that's where Pinky and the Brain got their start, is on Animaniacs first.
I do like Pinky and the Brain.
Before they got their own TV show. And it's hilarious. It's the pop culture references in that show went over my head as a kid, but when I rewatch it back as an adult, I love it. So Animaniacs is my number 3.
I never watched it, so I can't really tell you. I can't like completely shit on it like you did Friends, but there might be one later. I can. My number 2 is Home Improvement. You have to like Tim Allen.
I do. I actually like that show. Yeah, I used to watch it when I was younger.
And he had his neighbor that would like look over
the nose
the
guy.
fence. Yeah. See, everyone knows him and knows Tool Time, and it was such a good show. I loved it.
And the guy, his co-host Bob Vila or whatever his name was. What was his name? We don't remember his name.
I don't remember his name, but no, I remember like I can picture his face right now. But yeah, it's been a few years since I've watched it. But yeah, no, I loved Home Improvement.
I can dig that. That's a good choice. Well done.
Thank you.
Much better than Friends. Number 2 for me. You might or may not. I don't know. I think our producer Fern will like this choice. Number 2 for me, Batman the Animated Series, the original Batman with Kevin Conroy. That show, still to this day, some of the best Batman you'll ever see.
Fern is nodding with an approved face, but it wasn't enough to keep him away from his phone because he went back to his phone. It might be the soccer game, though. I mean, you know.
Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker played the Joker in Batman the Animated Series.
Oh.
Harley Quinn wouldn't have existed if not for Batman the Animated Series.
I didn't know that either.
So there you go. Batman, number 2.
Educational things for me. All right. My number 1 would be the one that I was singing the entire intro to the show, where our director and editor and producer Fern was interpretive dancing to it earlier, is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Very nice. Very good choice. That actually, so I actually would have probably had that as my number 1 as well, but I decided not to put it in because it was too easy. It was too easy to put Fresh Prince in my top 3.
Oh, it's very...
So I can still watch it to this day. It's still as enjoyable as ever. And Carlton and his stupid little...
I was going to say, do you go to weddings and do the Carlton?
No. I never get invited to weddings, Corey. Are you kidding me?
Aren't all your friends like married by now? Like,
yes,
shouldn't they have like kids and stuff? Like, didn't you go to their weddings?
I did, yeah, but I didn't dance.
See, there you go. I just proved exactly what you said earlier wrong. See, you don't even remember weddings you went to. Are you sure you don't like Friends?
I don't like Friends. Terrible.
I don't even know what to say.
I'm going to make you more angry with my number 1 choice, too. Are you ready for this one? I think you know what it is. Because, Corey, I love me some orange soda just like Kel from Keenan and Kel.
Oh, okay.
The best 90s show there is, hands down, no argument, still funny to this day. One of the best Nickelodeon show, at least.
Let's put some background on this. I have had no problem with Keenan and Kel whatsoever. It was when you approached us and said that Keenan and Kel was bar none, nothing can change your mind, everything in the world would fall apart if you were to say that Drake and Josh was just as good, if not better. And that is where we came to a disagreement. Not the fact of anything. Kenan Kel is good. Yes.
Great.
And it's a very good, very great show. But I still liked Drake and Josh better. That's a personal thing.
To each her own. To each her own. But Drake and Josh was a complete and total ripoff of Kenan and Kel, which is why I like Kenan and Kel better, because it was the original. It was done better. And Kel loves orange soda. Drake and Josh do not love orange soda.
No, but they work at a movie theater.
That's true.
Well, Josh did. Drake was just really liked at the movie theater.
Sure. Which Drake and Josh not a 90s show, so that
it doesn't even count in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is why I didn't mention it, and which is why you saying that I was going to argue about Kenan and Kel wasn't actually a logical thing, because Drake and Josh is not technically one of the ones that can be on this list.
There you go. So that's Cori and I's choices for a top 3 90s TV shows. What is your Sporty Nation? Let us know in the comments, wherever you may be watching us. Let us know on Twitter as well. I have a feeling there's so many more we didn't get to. So
I didn't even touch the any of the animated cartoon type ones, because I just felt like there's so many out there.
For example, I just thought of one off the top of my head. X-Files. Terrific show. Didn't make my top 3.
Oh, I know. I was going through a whole list of them, and I was so surprised that I didn't have any. Like, I could probably go to maybe a good 15.
Cori, you're 100% right there. We could go on forever about 90s TV shows, but right now it is time to finish the show with my favorite segment, of course, which is my Dick of the Week. Now, I actually had trouble coming up with this week's Dick of the Week, but it came to me in a dream just moments ago, really, when I was taking a nap in between segments of our show. My Dick of the Week this week is to those of you who in the Sporty Nation who do not like Game of Thrones. How in the world can you not like Game of Thrones? It has everything. The world that the writers have created, that George R. Martin created, is amazing. The fact that there's that much depth to just Westeros alone is enough to watch the damn show. But the characters are likable. You have people to root for. You have great villains. I think Joffrey is still one of the best villains of TV history. But for people who don't watch Game of Thrones, who don't like it, I don't get it. Is it just because you want to be cool? You want to go against the grain because you want to be the cool person who doesn't watch Game of Thrones but still can make references to, I don't know, Dracarys behind me, and who can still say Khaleesi and still think you're cool? You're not. Just watch the show. You'll like it. Trust me on this. It gets the Dick seal of approval. So, people who don't watch Game of Thrones and don't like it, you are my Dick of the Week. And that's going to do it for this edition of Sporty with Cori and Richie Suave. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We'll talk to you again next week. Good night and good sports, everybody.